I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we have the inspiring Dr. Gunta Krumins-Caldwell, who has written an important book. It is called The Gift of Grief and Loss, Courageous Care. Dr. Caldwell shares her heartfelt journey through her husband's battle with motor neuron disease, offering profound insights on how grief can lead to personal growth and community awareness. Today, we will discover how death and dying can transform your life. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Good to be here. Thank you, Logan.
Wonderful having you on the show. Appreciate your insights. The name of the book kind of catches some people perhaps off guard when they read The Gift of Grief and Loss. When you're going through it, it doesn't feel like a gift, but you say over time, it actually is. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, yes, that's such a big question. Certainly, as we were going through it, that 4-year challenge, I don't know if we actually saw the gifts as such. We embarked on that journey once we found out that our life had been turned upside down to see what we can learn about ourselves, about each other, and about our family, and to see how, yes, we could grow. And that's probably as far as it got at that point, just to feel that we had to grow in these circumstances and embrace it, for that's what we'd been given. And having been given that, how were we going to tackle it, approach it, live it, and see what we could bring about because of how we went about it?
How has your personal experience with grief shaped your approach to writing this book?
Well, it was a challenge from the moment we were given the diagnosis. And first of all, it was a matter of just scrambling and seeing how can we possibly get on with life and be able to manage everyday life. We had 2 small children at the time, and we're in the midst of just living our lives as ordinary people in our early 40s. And suddenly we were dropped this bombshell, and we had to manage that. And so how were we going to go about it? What were we going to do that? And for me, it's always been, because that's part of my profession, if this is what's been given to me, how can I discover parts of myself in this circumstance? What can I see about myself that maybe I wasn't seeing before? How can I evolve as a person? And how can I then be a better person for the people around me and for the people that I serve in my practice?
And for you, with your husband's diagnosis, it was very, very difficult, particularly because you had 2 young children, and you had to make sure you kept it together no matter how much your heart was breaking. Yeah,
Yes, but I didn't always, Logan.
yeah,
That
I
was
know.
It's just not possible
Yeah,
to do that, because there's so many fears of how we're going to manage this, how we're going to survive. And then, of course, after a while, when we did tell our family and friends, expecting a certain response from them and not getting that response because everyone was shell-shocked because of where we found ourselves. No one had ever gone through anything like this in our immediate family and even in our greater community. And so everyone floundered, didn't know what to do. So that made it even harder for me at the time and my family, because we had to find how to cope with the situation. And our friends and colleagues and community also were scrambling to see how were they going to cope with these circumstances. And that's when it really hit home to me how inept we all are with dealing with death and dying, and what that then asks of us, and what we find difficult to bring out within ourselves because we've never been in those circumstances.
yeah. What's your best advice to someone whose loved one has received a bad diagnosis or has died, um, is there any advice you'd give that person?
Well, first of all, I think they need to come to terms with where they find themselves, because they're the protagonist here. They're the ones who have been given the diagnosis. And so space has to be given to them, however they want that space, to be able to manage their situation and how they choose to want to go about it. Every one of us is different. So every one of us will choose, I think, a different way of going about it. We chose to see what we could learn from it, even looking for, how we could heal. Ed, that was our journey. But other people might say that no, they've been given a diagnosis. They're just going to go about their everyday life once they've come to terms. And so then it becomes the people around them needing to be respectful of that, first of all, but then asking them, well, how can I be of help? How can I? And not about doing the washing or the ironing, as was offered to me, and grateful that it was offered, but they're the doing bits. We need to be able to be there for the person, how they choose us to be there. Might be just sitting there, holding their hand, maybe crying with them, maybe just sitting in silence, maybe going for a walk, whatever that might be, but respectful of what that person needs rather than what you would like to give, because what we'd like to give is to make things better, and we can't make things better.
Right.
And if we can't make things better, then how can we support that space for that person? And not only the person who is dying, but the immediate family, like myself or my children. There needs to be space for that, and that was a struggle too, to find people who could be there for us in the way that we needed that, not the way they would like it to be. And of course, everyone has good intentions, but it's their intentions, and as I said before, we're unique, and so therefore we need what we need rather than what maybe is offered to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just being there often is all you can give and all that
Mm,
person needs to know that you're
exactly.
there. Like you said, to
Yeah.
hold their hand, to take a walk, to be with them, to cry with them, whatever
Mm,
it might
mm,
be. You've written a
mm.
second book called The Puzzle Pieces of Life. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
Well, that book came out of my 40 odd years of being in practice, or 50 actually, dare I say, of being in practice. And um, I'm a psychotherapist as well as a chiropractor, and I'm a certified NET practitioner. So in my practice, I see people who want to grow in their lives in different ways. And where do you start with that when a person says, well, I'm just struggling with this or I'm struggling with that? So then there are certain themes like I'm enough. And
Mm,
most people don't see themselves as being enough. And so I've written a poem on being enough. And the reason that the book evolved as being as poems rather than in prose was I've read, as I'm sure a lot of other people have read, lots of books, self-help books on how to go about evolving and how to lead a better life. And there's a lot of words in those books. So I thought if I could consolidate it to just the essence of what each of those headings that I've got in that poem, in that a book would give, then it might make it easier for people to say, okay, that makes sense to me, and I haven't had to read a lot to get the essence of, yes, I'm struggling with that, or I'm struggling with my anger, or trying to defend myself, or to be enough. And so I'm hoping that because it's written in this way, that it will give people a sort of sharpness to what it is that they'd like to work with and understand within themselves better.
Beautiful. I love the title. And one phrase I use a lot when giving people advice about life is everybody's puzzle pieces together differently. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So the puzzle
Yeah.
pieces of life are how you fit them together, how you get yourself to be where you want to be. Both excellent books, no doubt. We appreciate your time here today. The book we've been primarily focusing on is dealing with the loss of a loved one. As you know, it can be very, very painful. The hardest time in your life, of course. The name of the book is The Gift of Grief and Loss, Courageous Care. It's written by Dr. Caldwell, and she shares her heartfelt journey through her husband's battle with motor neuron disease, and she offers profound insights on how grief can lead to personal growth and community awareness. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.